Hello YouTube, this is Captain Omni and I'm coming at you with another fanfiction concept. And as you can tell by the title, this is a bit of a doozy. This is Swamp Thing versus Jason. And I bet you're wondering, okay, what in the hell are you doing with this, Captain? Captain, what are you doing? Well, basically the whole thing is, I just kind of like, it's kind of had this idea where, or essentially, what if Jason ended up in Swamp Thing's, well, swamp, and because, well, it kind of came to me because the whole thing is like, for those who are familiar with Swamp Thing, there are forces that try to create, in the DC universe anyway, there's the red, there's the green, there's the rot, which essentially like, metaphysical constructs made up of like the energy fields of plant life, of animal life, of decay, even the gray, which is like fungus life. Um, so really, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, okay, what if Jason ended up becoming, when he died the first time, ended up becoming an avatar of the rot. Now, the rot, contrary to what most people believe, is not necessarily evil. It's just like, well, it's a natural part of the ecosystem. Things decay. They were supposed to die at some point. And that's what the rot kind of helps with. The problem is when the rot ends up becoming out of balance and tries to decay everything. Uh, but yeah, this wouldn't necessarily. But this basically the whole idea is sometimes the green or the rot or something like that will try to create a avatar for itself, to kind of like champion its cause, but things will get kind of messed up. Like, it wouldn't completely take. For instance, Solomon Grundy in the DC universe was originally going to be a Swamp Thing, but that didn't quite take. So instead of becoming a Swamp Thing, Grundy became, well, a zombie. So basically, it would be a kind of similar thing where the Rot was going to choose Jason, but due to factors, it didn't really work out, and so Jason is a zombie. However, he still has that drive to kill, not just for his own self, but like, not just for his like own kind of like, sense of revenge, but like he has that idea that the Rot put in to have like, kind of balanced life and death kind of like stuck in Jason's head, even though the conversion to being its avatar was not complete. So yeah, basically this would be here is that Jason ends up in Swamp Thing's swamp and does what he does. He ends up deaths happen, and Swamp Thing's like, this is not right. Like because like there are bodies showing up, like people going missing and everything, and Swamp Thing's like, huh. And because like he can sense that there is an agent of the rot, but because the process wasn't completed, he's like, no, this isn't the rot, this is something else. And I bet you're like, okay, well, how would Jason end up being like a threat to Swamp Thing? Well, how I'd play it is like, even though he's not a full rot agent or avatar, he still has some of the rot in him. Like, so basically Swamp Thing can't just like tendril, like make plants explode out of him to like, stop him, because like, if he tries to do that, it kind of like withers the plant. Jason's body kind of like rejects that, and like he can't really do that. Like the plants might try to come through, but it won't really do any real damage to Jason. So like, which means like, Jason's like, he can still like shoot plants at him, like tendrils and stuff, and Jason can like rip through those and stuff. But outside of that, it's kind of like, it would be more of a slugfest. Swamp Thing would be forced into more of a slugfest with Jason. And of course, it would actually be like, because like, and really it would eventually get to the point where people were like, like, okay, what's going on here? Because like, Swamp, like, I would have people know of Swamp Thing here, like, he's a kind of like a local community, like in the swamp community, like, people like, oh yeah, Swamp Thing, he's a bit of a loner, but we know he cares about us, that kind of thing, which I would really play with, like, Swamp Thing being like, kind of like the local hero of sorts. Uh, not more akin to Batman. In fact, he's more of an urban legend type thing, but still very close to that idea. But anyway, another thing would be that Swamp Thing would like eventually have would like it would basically end up being like the only way to stop Jason, like because basically the longer Jason is in Swamp Thing's domain, the more like because of Swamp Thing being Avatar of the Green, the Rot ends up kind of becoming agitated because like okay, while Jason again isn't a full avatar of the Rot, it's still like he still has some ties to it. So it's like okay, this get like so basically the longer Jason fights Swamp Thing, the more the Rot gets agitated and is going to try to be pushing back due to that faint connection it still has with Jason. So yeah, basically the whole thing would be like, can Swamp Thing take Jason down before, like he kills more people and eventually really brings the Rot in full force, and he does end up, because of that, end up becoming its full avatar. Oh yeah, so yeah, think Jason Voorhees as an avatar of the Rot, or he's like a walking apocalypse of decay. Yeah. But anyway, this is it's more of like a small little fight idea, like two not much to it. One thing I can tell you, like eventually how something would beat Jason is that they do eventually manage to subdue him. So but they need to get him out of there, so they pretty much just like take him back to Camp Crystal Lake and pretty much like leave him in the waters there, which kind of like because of the somewhat mystical nature of the lake, kind of like calms like the Rot down, like and kind of like so it basically lets Jason slumber pretty much until the next sequel where something happens and he gets pissed off again at people being in Camp Crystal Lake. But other than that, yeah. So yeah, anyway, this was my idea of that. Hope you guys like it. This has been Captain Omni signing off.